Okay, we're live.
Okay, so I'm calling the meeting to order. And the minutes were sent out. I hope that everybody had a chance to review them. Is there any discussion or anything about last month's minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the minutes are approved. Any correspondence?
Well, yes, with the board's, go ahead. I'm going to read a letter that was sent to us from a gentleman named Dennis Condon, and it regards our donation of a tree. So let me just read the letter and we could go from there. Hi, Laurel. Good to talk with you earlier today. I love our library and our remaining sycamore tree. It was such a loss to see its sister tree come down a few years ago. I would like to donate a new sycamore tree to be planted at the site of the previous tree so future generations can enjoy our town's match pair. I would like to offer this as a memorial to my brother who died recently from Alzheimer's disease. I would like to provide a small, discreet standing plaque to be placed at the base of the tree. Inscription would read, Thomas N. Condon, lover of books and trees, gift of the family. I have checked with the wholesaler of native trees, and I would anticipate that this tree would be approximately 8 feet or more in height. I would hope that the town would be able to plant and maintain the tree. I have not contacted the town department for specifics yet. Thanks, Laurel, for considering this proposal. It would be gratifying to have a sister tree for the town to enjoy in years to come and for me to honor my brother as well. Dennis Condon. So that came in recently, and a few other pieces to this. I have reached out to the facilities superintendent, and he's reached out. Oh, good. Donna says, I could see and hear, but can't yet be seen or heard.
There's a, Donna probably has, she's got to click the
comes.
unmute button
Unmute,
on the
okay.
bottom left-hand corner of the
Here
screen.
she is.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
All right. Yes.
Can't
Woo!
see you though. You got to click stop the video
All
button.
right.
too.
Awesome. Good. So Donna, I just read a letter from a gentleman that is interested in donating a tree to replace the tree that we had to take down a couple of years ago because it was dying and a hazard. I wanted to add to this that a while back, the South County Garden Club also expressed in donating some money to go towards a replacement tree. So we can't make any movement on this tonight, but I'd like to, if you think it's appropriate, add it to our agenda for discussion for next month. And first of all, I reached out to the park superintendent, has been notified, and we're kind of trying to see if it's feasible and what can be done. But I think that it should be brought to the next meeting to discuss further. I think it's wonderful. I think it's very generous. But what my concern is with the donation and the plaque is that it's not inclusive to everybody. So maybe this could be an opportunity for us to get more people on board to do more than just put in a tree. You know, maybe it's an opportunity to do some kind of, just for an example, Warwick, when they remodeled and did their library, they did bricks. So everybody could do like a family brick, and, you know, maybe that's something we could really make it, you know, more inclusive than one individual. So my recommendation right now is to make it an item on next month's agenda and discuss further. That's the correspondence.
Yep.
I do have a question.
Sure.
This is how totally unobservant I am. First of all, I'm not exactly sure what a sycamore tree looks like. And secondly, where was the tree that fell that, that came down? Where, and like if I'm facing the library from the street, where is it? Where are they? Or where were they?
You know where the sign kiosk is? It's probably
Yes.
about 20, it was 20 feet up
Okay.
towards the building. And it was a giant. And it's very similar to the one where you're pulling in the driveway. It was actually bigger, I'd like to think, and it had, a lot of issues. So that was about 2 years ago, if anybody.
Yeah, it was rotten all through its middle. It
It
was,
was
Okay.
quite a feat to see that come down. And we've talked about this before. I think it's a great opportunity to revisit. I would just suggest that we move it to the next meeting to make sure everybody that wants to weigh in can weigh in.
Okay.
And discuss it further.
the one thing about that though, Laurel, is that planting season is good for in the fall. So it's fine to move it to the next meeting, but we should decide what to do at the next meeting. So it can get in this year.
Point.
Yeah, I mean and again, like I said, we did start a conversation with the Parks and Rec superintendent, and I'm still kind of waiting back on that. I just was hoping that I just don't want to exclude anybody, and I don't want to do something that is quite large on one thing, like I think it could be an opportunity to do something a little more.
Or both. Like you're saying, we could talk, I mean, we could talk about it later, but I don't know. I mean, something to talk about the South Kingstown Garden Club, would they be interested in doing something other than the tree?
They might.
So it might be worth it to approach them and say, we have this potential donation. We don't know what we're going to do. We need to discuss at our board meeting. We're just interested in whether or not you would be interested in doing anything other, like some other, flowering portion or something.
A bench or something like that.
A bench.
Yeah.
Would you want to start head off this? I mean, a brick project is a huge project, right? But that could be great for donations too. And could be really lovely, but I don't know. That was my only
I was
thought.
just spitballing. I'm certainly not one way or another, but I caution to start doing things like that when you start naming things, then it's well, I want this to hang there, and you're gonna do a plaque, and everybody has somebody they would like to memorialize, and that's wonderful, but it is something that I think you gotta take into consideration for the community.
Well, and I mean, you're saying too, like, how do you say no to the next person that comes by
Right.
that wants to put
Right.
sycamore tree right
Right.
up to the
Well,
next sycamore
what
tree?
exactly?
Let me
Yeah.
ask,
So, like,
let me
you
ask-
want to make sure things are in place, and again, the inclusivity at this time, I think is important. Yeah.
have you talked to the tree people about what the right kind of tree is for that spot?
I did talk to Mr. Wallace way back, and there were a couple of different suggestions. I don't think anything was singled out as you got to do this or don't do that, because I just didn't have a chance to follow through on it. But that's definitely something that has to be considered as well.
So we'll put that on the agenda for next month.
I think so, and it gives you guys time to think about, how best to proceed and what might be done that's doable and not not too rushed. I mean, I understand, yes, there's only a certain amount of planning time, but if it's something that we want to take our time with, a year from now, it just means that we've just spent that much more time planning for it, so.
Okay, any other discussion today on that, or?
The only other thing I will mention is that I did receive one application for trustee from Lori Underwood. My understanding is there was another one that I did not see from, I believe his name is Michael Henry. And those will be going before the council, not at tonight's meeting, but hopefully the next one or soon. So we do have interested applicants.
And there's one position, right?
One position.
The first name that you mentioned, Laura, that she was on the agenda for tonight, but I don't know if they moved it since they got a second application.
I did see that, and I had a meeting this morning, and I think they are trying to keep those interviews to each board, so they're not doing multiple, and I think tonight they're doing interviews for the planning board.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
we're in the queue. It's good to have applicants.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. President's report, oh, sorry, that's me. I will defer to Laurel to the agenda.
And I will
30
defer
minutes.
to the agenda. Yeah, I'll defer
Long day.
to the agenda. I still haven't quite gotten back to that format for the director's report. It's just, I'm working on a synopsis of what's transpired since March, and it's becoming a little more detailed than I had anticipated. So I will defer to the rest of the agenda.
The crosswalk?
So
Up in-
yay, yeah, everybody saw the letter.
Yeah, good stuff.
That's great. You know, it's documentation, and it's, you know, they say August. I am still not going to hold my breath, but at least it's something to say, you know, when we follow up, if we have to follow up, it's like in back on August. No, I'm sorry, July 21st, the letter was dated, you know, back on July 21st, you said that, and just looking at the progress of it. But hopefully we'll start seeing something.
Laurel, do you know does anyone know what the project entails beyond the crossing lights? You know, at one point they were talking about a ramp and everything else, and handicapped accessibility. I'm just wondering if anyone knows if that's part of the project or not.
I do not. I know that's part of the plans that I looked at from way back when. Yes, that was all part of it. I don't know if that's what they're moving forward with, if they ran into some roadblocks. I know the church wasn't necessarily on board with some of the things they had planned there.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine the college is in a little bit of a flurry right now with all the other things going on, so I do not know.
I certainly had a sense from the letter that whatever they were going to do in August was going to be pretty much sort of bare bones.
Cosmetic.
Yeah,
It's a
but which is better than absolutely nothing, so.
Yeah, I feel like
More
it's
than
something, it's definitely a start.
sophisticated. Yeah. A start. I like that he signed it himself.
Yeah.
Meeting. I found that.
But we'll see. I drive by there all the time. I'll be looking out for something. I believe they said some kind of pedestrian head. We were trying to figure out what that meant. whether it was
Nothing
people
on
who
a street.
people who jaywalked had their, you know, head on a spike, but
Let's hope not.
A warning.
something different. So, all right. Well, we'll see what happens there. The Champlain Foundation grant update.
So I put this on there. I had a follow-up meeting for our request coming up, and you know, where they just kind of ask general questions about what we're requesting, and none of it was. Hold on. Ooh, I think we got Donna.
I think we lost Donna.
No,
No, there's Donna.
we might be able to see her now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Excellent. And
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to start your video there.
Thank you.
There she is.
I don't know what happened, but
Donna.
or what you guys did, but thank you.
So back to Champlain. One of the questions, they just started a new online application, and one of the questions asks about board giving. So, and if you just bear with me, I'm not going to share my screen, but I will read the actual question and my response. Okay, so it wants to know the number of board members, board makeup, board development, board giving policy. So the question is, do you have a stated policy that expects all board members to make a personal financial contribution, whether it is a defined amount or an amount meaningful to a member? So my response was, we do have one board member that does donate something. So we're at 0.14%. And the question after that is, if any of your board do not make a monetary contribution, please help us understand why. So I wrote, this is a voluntary non-paying appointment. Trustees represent citizen control and governance of the library. Assumption of contribution could be construed as an obligation that does not necessarily fit with the board's mission. Additionally, this expectation may be a deterrent to citizens wishing to serve their community, but not in the fiscal position to contribute. Board representation has reflected the nature of libraries with equitable and free access to participation in services. So they were fine with that, but they just impressed upon me that even if it's a small buy-in to the library, it's important for them as funders to see that. You know, a donation to the Friends, that type of thing. I think that makes, when they see that a board is 100% giving, you know, no matter how big or small, it just, I guess, makes us look better in the overall. So I just wanted to put that out there because they did bring it up at our meeting, and I said I would make sure that you guys were aware of. Those are some of the things that they're interested in knowing. So, that's that.
Well, it sounds like
I
your
still
letter
agree with
was-
my statement. You know, like you guys are wonderful in volunteering your time and brains and all that. I don't know if that's going to affect the, I can't say for sure, but it is something that the funders from Champlain are interested in knowing and concerned about.
I'm curious, do you have any kind of a sense as to how much of a donation or contribution they would like to see from board members, or is there any?
Yeah, it's not monetary. It just goes by member. So it's not, so that 14% is one of 7. So if everybody, say, even donated a very small amount to the Friends of the Library, that would be 100%. It's not by denomination. It's just by
Participation.
exactly.
It's like private schools. It's like just buying into the
Buying in.
belief in the school. Like development offices look for the entire staff and faculty, as well as alumni and students and parents and families, all to participate in donations.
Laurel,
Exactly.
can you send out, is there a person or a contact or an address for the Friends of the Library?
Yes. Yeah. I'd be happy to send that.
Thank you.
Friends would be happy. So
And
I'm sorry,
are those
that was not like, that's not me, but it is something I said I followed.
And are those the two choices? The two choices would be to donate to the Friends of the Library or to donate to the South Kingstown Library in general, or maybe just send out. Can you send out
Yeah,
all
I guess
the
the Friends or the town, the town is kind of contained to a fiscal year, and well, no, that's not true. So yeah, the Friends or the town, it would just, if it was to the town, it would need to be put in a fund that carries over from year to year. The Friends is a little
Makes
more
more sense.
accessible.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
put it
that
that
makes
way,
more sense.
than
Yeah.
the town.
Okay.
And who knows if you know, we come back with the tree thing, you know, maybe that's another avenue to.
Well, what if we're, well, this getting off, not really getting off topic, but if there was any, so if we're looking for any kind of donations or additional funding for the restoration of the Weaver, I mean, is that,
That
would
would
that
be,
be,
yeah, absolutely. That could certainly be earmarked and put right in that fund. Yeah, I don't see why that couldn't happen either.
okay. All right. Peacedale status update.
Okay, so I spoke with all of you individually, and we are now closed to the public. There was, you know, I don't want to put out too much information, but I'll be honest, like I was potentially exposed to COVID, so I felt that it was necessary for me to get a test. In that, a few other staff members I felt was also necessary to get a test. Happy to report that everybody came back negative. Yay. This again is the overabundance of caution for the situation we're in, but we did in the process shut down Peacedale because for the public, we were still doing curbside, but Peacedale has been shut to the public. One, because we couldn't maintain it without staff members there, key staff members there. And two, and this is, you know, something again that we should probably discuss at the next meeting. This is difficult. The numbers are not agreeing with Rhode Island right now, I don't think. And we're trying to find the best, safest way to be consistent and deliver service. And that might be just curbside at this moment. That's not that it can't be revisited to open up again, but I would hate to keep going back and forth or to have staff more on edge than the situation has already made us as we're dealing with it. So, excuse me, a lot of talking. Sorry. So that's where we are right now. I welcome any comments or input or where you might see things, because when you're dealing with it, and you know, PM, feel free to jump in anytime. It is harder than we're making it look, because we're really trying our hardest to do everything we can.
Right, and it requires a lot of staff members. It's a constant reminding of people to stay 6 feet apart. A lot of our work is done in concert and tandem, and it's just, I think what Laurel said, not to toot our own horn, but I think that it looks easier than it actually is. And it's kind of like an orchestrated situation where we need somebody at the front door, 2 people at the reference desk, 1 in the front, 2 in the back. And then people need to take breaks. They have to go to the bathroom, have lunch.
Clean their own station. Like there's really a lot involved to it. And that's not to say that we can't do it, but if I'm understanding correctly, things are not getting quite better yet. So if things are going to be potentially worse in the next couple of months or the next month, then I don't know if I would recommend opening back up at this time.
Mhm.
But again, this could be discussed now. It can't be voted anything on, but and maybe we could revisit it when we get a better.
How busy was the library while you guys were open?
Well, we were busy. We were hitting 50 to 100 people coming through. Some might just be picking up holds, in and out. Some were browsing. Not as much computer use as you would think, but we were busy.
All
And
the holds could be curbsided though.
correct.
That's-
And we're
I mean, I
doing-
really feel like I think that you guys are the staff and you need to make this decision, and it needs to be safe for you and your staff first and foremost. It seems to me that if things are going to open and close and open and close, that doesn't really help anybody. It creates a lot of stress. I don't know. It's going to get worse. I don't, at some point, I mean, supposedly the schools are opening, but at some point they're probably going to close.
Yeah, today they decided September 14th.
Right,
Yes.
they pushed them back 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking probably the best thing you can do is to continue the curbside service. And I know you do a whole lot online, do as much online as you can.
Yep.
And I don't know whether you can do anything with like cable TV, do any programming in that regard. So, and I would stay close for now and see how things look in the fall. And if they don't look any better in the fall, I'd stay closed at least through the year. And I wouldn't reopen until things really improve. But then, you got to notify people all the time.
Of course.
And we
No, good points. And I will say, along those lines, Donna, like the town is, we are still doing virtual. We're doing the curbside, and we're looking to, have our own YouTube channel, and we'll be able to have these meetings on there or post them on there and post all our stuff on there. So it's in the works, and I appreciate both of your, Lindsay and Donna, what you're saying, because it's hard. We want to do as much as we can.
Of course.
It's just not that easy.
I think curbside's a lot though. I don't know. I mean, I think you guys, and I think we're so lucky to have been able to have that for such a period of time, before you opened. I think you're still providing services to the community. There's not nearly as many people coming, and utilizing it the way that you thought they would,
Right.
I don't know.
And we did expand curbside at both Kingston and Hale too.
Mhm.
So there's more. Now at Hale, it's 5 days a week. At Kingston, it's longer curbside hours and also longer hours available by phone to answer any questions or to, refer people.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, do what we can with what we have.
So we had a lot of reference questions today. Like it wasn't just curbside, but
Oh, good.
a lot of your regular reference work still takes place. And I think today we did between 53 and 58 curbside pickups between the hours of 10 and 4. And we had a lot of boxes. Yeah, we're still quarantining items. We get delivery 3 times a week. The workflow is not what it was before either. So it sort of comes in chunks, if you can imagine, you know, because you have to let things sit for 3 days. You get deliveries 3 days a week. So it's kind of it's just a different workflow. And just as the staff, they all are willing to learn to do it a new way. When we shift gears, it goes over really well. People have been very good about it and working hard too. So, and supportive, our staff, really.
And we have one AC out. I don't know.
Right, and it was hot today.
Hot.
We're running around. I mean,
We
look
have
at
one
this
AC
frizz.
that's
Like,
out. Yeah.
it was hot today.
Oh, man.
Laurel, I have 2 questions. One, I'm just curious about what you're hearing from other libraries around the state, if they're experiencing the same thing. And 2, did you get any reaction from people who had an expectation that they would be able to come into the library and browse or whatever, and were told no? And what's been the public reaction, if any?
So to your second question, yes at first, only because things happen so suddenly, and we had people that were expecting, you know, had an appointment or, you know, what's going on. So it was that kind of instant panic, for lack of better words. The first question, everybody's struggling. I've heard some stories about some very unhappy staff, some very scared staff. Our staff is not, I mean, they probably a little scared, but they're not unhappy. They're doing their jobs and very glad to have their jobs. But I've heard some mixed things from other libraries. I will add to this conversation, and I don't know quite how to phrase it. The state is pushing, in my mind, and this might just be my opinion, the state is pushing the libraries to be open to the public, because libraries are, you know, the quintessential way for the community to connect. That doesn't mean it's easy or doable. It just means that they like to be able to point people in a direction that says, well, you could go to your library and get this, or, you know, it's just someplace that feels safe to stay,
Yeah.
even though it might not be, or even if it's just for the sake of like the State House isn't open, but we want, you know, have libraries open.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of hard to get a directive like that when we don't necessarily know what we're going through. Or don't get me wrong, we want to help out, but I'm receiving emails like, oh, you know, we're gonna have people come to the library to do the census, or oh, and the latest one was people and I read it very quickly because it was just another thing. It was registering for vaccines. Well, you could go to your
right.
library. And like, these are wonderful if we could do it and do it in a way that's easy. There just isn't. So it seems easier said than done, I guess, is what I want to say for that type of thing. And I think all libraries are struggling with it. Some are probably doing better. They have more staff. They have a bigger building. They have a different population. But I don't, did that answer your question? I went off on a little rant.
Yeah.
Sorry, State.
Yeah, it's a hard time. I mean, these are not normal circumstances. So, I mean, the most important thing is safety.
Right.
Right.
Well, who makes a decision about whether the library is open or closed?
That is at my recommendation. I do get encouragement from the town to, you know,
They open?
no,
Oh,
No.
no. Oh, really? Okay, good.
a town hall is not, I mean, they're open to a
Yeah.
limitation, but they're not open to have people just walk in.
No, that's good then. At least there is
Yeah.
in support of what you're saying.
And let me just backtrack because I don't want to throw the state under the bus. They're doing a great job of putting out guidelines for what needs to be done. It just doesn't necessarily make it doable.
Well, and I think guidelines are just that too, that they, every building is different. Every staff situation is different. And like you said, the patron base is different. It's just different, each library. And yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Well, to be continued for sure. So,
Yeah, but it will be nice to just not have that stress, because I think that if we instantly jump back in just because we could, I think it's just gonna to raise a lot of concern amongst staff and even the public. When we shut down, we had public that were concerned, like all of a sudden, oh, I went to, well, I mean, Lori, we were at a meeting and it lends for concern.
Right.
It's a real problem.
Well, and I think too, people, understand right now why we're closed. It's not, by and large, I think it's, they understand an abundance of caution, what that means. And if we go back and forth, then I think the confidence just plummets.
right. I would agree with that. I think that's too confusing and
Right.
anxiety provoking. We're open, we're not open.
Well, and it's hard to keep everybody informed all the time if you're having to do that too.
It is. And even the staff, are we open? Are we opening?
Right. Am I coming to work today? Right.
Exactly. And it just, yeah, because you know what, when this is all said and done, and I know things are going to be different if we had some kind of a way to see in the future, but you know what, all these people are still going to be there working, and we want a nice, harmonious relationship with our community and with each other and with one another. That's really important to acknowledge that, I think, out of respect.
Because staff has done phenomenal, rolling with the punches. And so I think we could certainly deliver a service with curbside that should at least get materials in people's hands, and for sure keep us safe.
All right. I'm sorry, was there anything else? The Weaver Centennial.
Oh, can I back up 1 second,
Yeah,
Hillary?
sure.
I just wanted to also add, we are going to be rolling out soon a service for printing, mobile printing. So it's called Print, and we'll make sure that, patrons get the right information to use it. But what it is basically a mobile print where you could pull up, well, you don't even need to be next to the building. You could order something to be printed from your phone or your device or your laptop and pay for it online. And we would be able to run it out to you curbside. So it's a mobile printing service for folks that, they don't have printers at home. I don't have one. I know a lot of people don't have them. So it would be a way for people to be able to print documents without ever having to come in the building if they have a mobile device. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Sounds great.
Okay. Weaver Centennial.
So the group, the ad hoc committee met 2 times and had some great discussion. And I believe we kind of came to a conclusion at our last meeting that what's really needed before we get carried away with anything is more education and more of a way to be able to expound to people that might not understand the whole history of the Weavers or the Weaver, the hazards, general history. So the first piece would be, and Tim, please feel free to jump in, or Hillary. Well, no, you weren't at that last meeting, but the first piece would be to make sure we're educating people before we're doing anything grandiose or just throwing information out there for the sake of throwing information out there. Like, we have a page on our website, but it could certainly be expounded on. There's opportunities, maybe definitely still for some virtual things, but to do a celebration might not be quite the right move this soon. You know, I think it needs a little more time and attention than just picking a date and trying to do something. So, Tim, please feel free to jump in here.
Sure. Well, I'll let you talk in a second, Laurel, about the actual restoration work, which is part of the discussion. But our committee had a lot of back and forth about the history of the sculpture, the history of the Hazard family, the complexities of explaining that, particularly in our current environment, where people, you know, are very curious about the true history of any monument. And as everybody probably knows, the Hazards were a slave-holding family way back in the day. And then up through the early part of, I think, the Civil War, they were selling cloth for slave clothing to the South, and made a ton of money doing that. And the fortunes of the Hazard family really came mostly from that manufacturing. And that's a part of the story that really isn't right now reflected in any meaningful way on our online presence describing the sculpture. So in our conversations, we thought we should do a couple of things that we might want to consider. One would be just to update the material that's online with more information about who the Hazard family were and what their history was, and right up through the well, through present day, but certainly through the period of slavery and the pre and post Civil War era. And as part of that, we had talked about perhaps videotaping a kind of a roundtable discussion. Betty Cotter volunteered to be part of that because she certainly knows a lot about the Hazards and about Carolyn Hazard, who was the benefactor, the patron of that sculpture. But having a roundtable discussion with her and perhaps a scholar. I have a friend who recommended somebody at Brown who is very well versed in the economics of slavery, especially as it pertains to the Rhode Island manufacturers, and you know, just to as a way of just bringing forth that history and have that online discussion videotaped and put it online as something as part of our page on the sculpture itself. What we were very concerned about, and I think it's a real concern, is in any way making the sculpture a target. You know, of people. There may be people out there that think we're unaware of the history of the Hazard family, or are soft peddling it or downplaying it, and maybe take it upon themselves to do what has been done to other monuments around the country, and you know, call attention to it, or in some way deface it, which would be a shame. So we have to be sensitive to that concern. So I'd be curious what the rest of the board thinks about that idea of updating the information that's online right now with a more full explanation of who the Hazards were, and then B, perhaps having a roundtable discussion that we could videotape and have that part of the package as well. You know, because of COVID, we're not going to have a big celebration in person I had thought at one point of, and I had some grandiose ideas of having like the URI brass ensemble play some of the pieces that were played at the original dedication. But the more I thought about it and talked to musicians, they just said, it's not going to work. You know, you can't get people together to do that. So low key seemed to be the better option. But Laurel, perhaps you can explain or give an update on the restoration itself, the physical restoration.
Sure. So we could have the cleaning done as it has been done in the past by our facilities manager department. So we're looking to have that done in September. I am in communication with the person that had given me the original estimate to see what his availability is. The Narragansett Library Association did agree to the funds that have been set aside specifically for this work of art. They agreed to use those to help in the restoration. So it looks good. It's just I gotta stay on top of the facilities manager, get it clean and make sure that we could get somebody to come do the repairs. I think that might be a tricky part because I just haven't heard back and I have reached out. So it's a matter of reaching out to somebody else as well.
Laurel, I'm not sure everyone is familiar with the Narragansett Library Association. Can you explain that and explain the money that they have?
Sure. So the Narragansett Library Association was the original entity that created the library in the first place. And when the libraries combined, and I am not Jessica Wilson, so please do not quote me on any of this. So when the libraries combined, there was the Narragansett Library Association that then became kind of under the town. And under the town, it's made up of the treasurer, the manager, the finance director, and they just oversee the money that has been there since the very beginning. So, and in that money was set aside for the Weaver money for restoration. They did a big restoration, and again, don't know my dates as good as I should. And there was money left over from
2002.
Was it? Okay, thank you. So there is about $4,000 that was approved to be used to restore, and we'll do the cleaning in house and see, you know, how far we get. I know the Friends would be more than happy to help us out. I certainly. Not saying it's going to be, I showed you or shared with you the original estimate of like $11,000. I don't know if we'll get there in one shot. I don't think so, but we could certainly just start with the cleaning and the major work for the pointing and the places that you could see really need some help.
Before we need this subject, and Tim, you were talking about the historical aspects of it, both pro and con, and I can suggest several people that it might be worth it to contact, just to see if you can, you know, a point of view about the hazards. One is Lauren Spears over the Tomahawk Museum of the Narragansett Indians.
Yes.
She might have some information, you know, having to do with the hazards. How did they treat people of color in the area? There's a retired pastor named Pastor Wallace Hazard, who he's related to a lot of the you know, Black and Indian hazards in the area, and he might have, you know, he might be able to steer you in some directions. And then there's a couple of professors at URI, Ray Ferguson. Her first name is R-A-E, and then Ferguson. She teaches history, and then there's another professor who's relatively new. I'd have to look him up. And I know this new professor is an expert on slavery, though not necessarily on it around here. But at least those two may be some, people who could give some information too.
Mm-hmm. Good idea. Thank you.
Okay. And come to think of it, there's a few people in Newport too, like Dr. Cynthia Hamilton, but I
Yeah.
don't know if they know as much about this area.
Mm-hmm.
That's another
Donna,
thing.
is this anybody that you might know personally that you could start the ball rolling or for a conversation?
Possibly.
All right.
So I could contact people and, see what they know and et cetera.
I think and Tim, again, jump in. I think the goal was, again, to educate. So, if we could create a panel of people for a discussion, I think that's a good way to, and it's a good way to present it to people because it's interesting to watch it in that format instead of having somebody necessarily just lecture at you or have a page on the website, which we will certainly do, but it's nice to kind of see that diversity in a group of people interacting like that. So I think, yeah, if you want to just reach out and kind of say that's what we're looking to do and just see if you get any bites and
Right.
go from there.
And that's a good idea about maybe having almost like a Zoom discussion where people come on and
Right.
somebody kind of coordinated, but they raise questions and different people respond.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there may be a difference of opinion, and it could be really good to have a balanced discussion. Sounds very relevant and timely for some of the
Right.
stuff that's going on right now. So.
Right. Well, we'll meet, that ad hoc committee will meet again. I'll schedule Hillary and Tim, I'll schedule another meeting. And Donna, I'll invite you too to the
Thank you.
one, and we'll talk some more, probably in, we'll say a week.
Okay.
Probably in a week.
All right. I see Elizabeth has joined us. Elizabeth, do you have public comment?
I would just like to say that I think another part of the focus on the Weavers should be on Daniel Chester French, the artist who did this, and how lucky we are to have something by him in our community. When you consider the major places like the Lincoln Memorial, his home Chesterwood, the whole thing. So another whole aspect of this.
I couldn't agree more. One of the people I had reached out just recently wrote a book about him. But unfortunately, he didn't mention the Weaver much. So that kind of shows you what a kind of under the radar, piece it is of his. So,
Well, as I said, I saw the model for the Weavers. We were out at Chesterwood when I was there about 20 years ago. And it was fascinating because it was such a major focus right there at that time.
I have to say, I've told you this before. I grew up here. I was born and raised here, went to the library probably 3 times a week. Friends and family who went to that library all the time. I never noticed that sculpture. Never.
It's hiding in plain sight.
It's just, who knew? So, and I would venture to say, because I have mentioned it to friends who are in the area, and I've talked about this sculpture, and they look at me blankly, like, what are you talking about? So even bringing to the public's attention that we have this beautiful sculpture and as you say, the renowned sculptor and the whole history, it would really be, I think it could be really very educational and interesting to people, because I bet many people have no clue it's even there. They don't even think about it. So it'll be good. Is there anything else? our next meeting is scheduled for September 9th.
Yeah, I want to bring up one thing. I think we talked about it at the last meeting, was trying to get somebody from the medical community to talk online through the library about the status of, South County. You remember that?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
About having a
I
virtual
think
program.
I volunteered to do that, and I completely dropped my responsibilities for doing that. But Laurel, you were going to talk to the town manager to get the name of.
I was, and then I guess I dropped the
Well,
ball
I
as
mean,
well. Things kind of.
we just talked about a whole situation just a few minutes ago that it would be very, I mean, everybody is more interested in that than really anything else in our lives right now. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah,
just
I'll follow up on it with Laurel. And
I agree. When you say this, Mario, is there somebody or some like?
I
I'm
don't know
trying to.
anybody. I mean, there's South County hospitals right here. There must be somebody there that the town manager talks to all the time about what the town should be doing. It'd be great if
So,
you got
like,
the Rhode Island person, but I
yeah.
maybe someone local, I don't know. Here's how South County is doing. And I think we're actually doing quite well compared to the rest of the state.
We are. So I mean that's going to be a short kind of conversation. These are the amount of cases. These are what South Kingston's at. I'm just trying to make it a program. I think it needs to be a little more than somebody just reporting what's happening in South Kingstown. I'm just trying to figure out what you pictured.
Well, I picture somebody, I see the governor every week talk with her doctor, and they go through a whole list of things that they're doing. So what I would picture is somebody like the town manager and a local doctor saying, okay, here's what's going on in Rhode Island, and here's what's going on here. And if it's 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes, but try and do that on a regular basis. And then let people know that, hey, through the library, here's a matter that it's the most important thing in your lives right now. It's just a way of getting the library connected to people, which, this COVID thing is, even if we get the vaccine, people are still going to be squirrely about going places and doing things. So the more online programs we can get going, the more relevance the library is going to have.
I think just having
yeah.
the opportunity to be able to ask questions of someone local,
Sure.
since everything changes. What is known, what is not known. It's been changing all kinds of things. The transmission rate, and just today I read about a study that people who wear these gaiters, the things over there, that is actually worse than wearing no mask at all.
Oh, you mean, it's like
like a
a towel
scarf
thing,
will
it comes up.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah.
They
Like a
did. There were
turtleneck.
some researchers who tested all kinds of different masks and materials, and found that that particular material is not only not effective, but it's bad because it breaks up the particles that you expel in a way that makes it easier for people to ingest them, which I didn't know. But it's that kind of thing where new information seems to be coming out all the time, and it'd be good maybe to have a periodic question and answer with somebody that could answer whatever questions our patrons might have.
Yeah, I mean, like for instance, we go to the beach fairly regularly, and I've heard that being at the beach is really not, it's blowing, the wind is blowing a million miles an hour. It's really, you're not going to get it at the beach unless you're at the bar sitting at a bar beach. If you're is that true? What's the experience in South County?
Yeah.
I'd like to know that. I'm just speaking.
I think a lot of people would. I also think you got to keep in mind this is still a moving target. That just because somebody says, well, it doesn't seem that way, does not mean that it's down the road not that way. So I agree.
Or that they
I
have
think
to,
the
or
more
that there's actual data to back it up.
Exactly. And I think the more we can inform people, the better. I would just want to make sure that is obviously very responsible. And also that people understand that this is not, it's a moving target. It's rolling, it's changing, it's.
That it's not cut in stone, that you may say something one week, and the
Right.
next week it could be totally different, as we're finding out, so. Yeah,
But I will make big old notes to follow through on this time.
so maybe we could go ahead and put that on the agenda for next time as well, to follow up on that and make sure we at least start the ball rolling on that and see what we can come up with.
Yep. Yep.
Is there anything else? Thank you, Mario, for reminding us of that. If there isn't, then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Oh, second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank
I
you.
will-
See you next month.
Well, take care.
See you
All right.
next month.
Yeah,
See
be
you.
safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Be safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.